When we have the eyes to see and are willing to receive, we might discover that God is trying to bless us through many unlikely benefactors. This is the thought that came to me as I was recently listening to the book Great Expectations. In it, Pip, the main character, assumes that his benefactor is Miss Havisham. She's this eccentric old lady. She has her many quirks, but she is high class. And so there's a sense in which Pip assumes that she is his benefactor, in part also because of his desire for Estella. He wants to be in a relationship with her and assumes that Miss Havisham is arranging all of that together. And so it's a shock to him to discover that Miss Havisham is not his benefactor. In fact, his benefactor is Magwitch, this convict outsider who chooses to bless him. Pip had helped him out earlier in life when he was a young boy, and now Magwitch wants to repay him. Magwitch came into some funds, some fortunes, and is now blessing Pip in his journey to become a gentleman. But it was a shock to Pip, where Pip is assuming someone as high class is his benefactor, and to find out as Magwitch is a shock to his system, a shock to his sensibilities. If his benefactor was Miss Havisham, then he could boast in that around town. But to find out his benefactor is Magwitch, now that becomes a point of shame and humility. Magwitch is not someone he can parade around town. Magwitch, being a convict and escaped from prison, is someone who still has to live in hiding. And so he doesn't get the opportunity to boast about his benefactor the way that he could if it was Miss Havisham. But it was through Magwitch that Pip learned the true meaning of love and sacrifice. On the other hand, while Magwitch was able to bless Pip with financial resources, Joe was his other father figure. And so he was his uncle, his sister's brother. Joe was a common, unassuming man. He was a blacksmith. And so he was not comfortable in high society. And so Pip became ashamed of him. So anytime Joe would visit, now it became awkward because he was ashamed of Joe's presence. But when Pip became sick, it was Joe who took care of him. His sister had died by that point, and so Joe became that emotional, relational foundation that Pip did not have in high society. And so while he was able to engage in high society, when he needed someone to have his back, it was Joe the one who was the one who had his back, provided that foundational relational security. And so in a sense, an emotional relational benefactor, while Magwitch was a financial benefactor, Joe became that relational foundational benefactor that Pip needed as well. In our own life, we might have versions of Magwitch and Joe as well. Men who are broken or rough around the edges, or common and unimpressive from a human standpoint. And so when we look for father figures or mentors, we may be looking for the impressive people that we can boast about, and those may not be the individuals that God has put in our life. He may put in the Magwitch, the broken individuals, rough around the edges, or he might put in the Joes who are just common, everyday men, unimpressive on a human standpoint, but exactly what we need for that relational, emotional foundation to thrive. Even when Christ came, he did not come in the fullness of his splendor and glory, but came as a suffering servant, born in a lowly manger. And many dismissed and rejected him because he did not come as they expected him to. They wanted a conquering king to sit on a physical throne, and instead they got a carpenter, a servant, someone who is willing to take the lowly seat and wash the feet of others. But this was exactly what they needed and exactly what we needed. And we might miss him and the other men that God has placed in our life to bless us when we only see externally and we don't allow ourselves to receive the Magwitches, the Joes that God has put in our life who may not be impressive from an external standpoint, but exactly what we need to bless us. And so we must allow our vision to be redeemed and learn to accept God's goodness even from unlikely benefactors.